Hello, everyone, and welcome to this lovely Tuesday afternoon webinar of Know Your Program Data with Extempore Reports. So happy you all could join us today to learn about this massive feature that we have on store for you today. So let's get into it, shall we? First, slide going. There we go. First, it's great to meet you. If you haven't met us before, my name is Grant Castner. I am Extempore's community manager. I do a lot of webinars like this. You may have seen me before. I do a lot of our marketing as well. I help teachers better understand the platform that we have with Extempore. And I'm happy to introduce today my co-presenter, Miss Jessica Sloan.
Hi, everyone. If I haven't met you, it's so nice to meet you. I see a lot of familiar faces. I am almost now at 2 years at Extempore. I do a lot of implementation work with some of you. And I'm excited to be here today to talk about reports. This was something as in my former life as a administrator for a world languages program, something that I would have loved to have. So I can't wait to share all of that, all of the progress that we've made with you all today.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Let's get into a little bit just our webinar outline. What's this webinar going to look like? What are the topics we're going to be talking about today? First, we're going to see how did we get here? Where did sort of reports come from? Where is the idea? And why do we have them today? And give you a little background. We're also going to look at some stories. This is going to be the bulk of our presentation today, is better understanding use cases for using extempore reports. And what better way to do that than telling you some great stories to help you understand how to use extempore reports. Next, we are going to get into understanding the value of these reports. When we finish up with our stories, I'm going to highlight a few more points of why they're so valuable to your language program. And finally, we'll talk about the steps of getting you guys your reports, how you can get your hands on them as soon as you can. And then, of course, we'll have a bit of a recap, a quick start guide that we'll share with you, and time for some questions and comments that you may have. If you have any questions at any time, our team is in the chat. We have people here from Extempore who are happy to answer your questions. So if it's something that perhaps Jessica and I can't answer at the moment, like I said, we have our teammates here from Extempore to help you guys out in the chats. All right. Why reports? This is where we're going to first start. Well, for one, we heard your feedback. We know how valuable data is in education, and particularly to world language programs. You need data for so many different things: measuring progress, measuring your students' performance, seeing how they're doing on the path to proficiency. We heard you. We heard your feedback, and we worked hard over the past months, really getting this put together for something that is going to be really, really valuable for you and your district. And with this feedback, right, providing you something that you need with data is also giving you a seat at the table. We love our other core content areas, but it's so often that world languages are sort of left out on the outside. This data from Extempore Reports is going to give you that seat at the table to not be left out anymore and to be included with all of the other core content areas who have everything they need. But now you have what you need as well. That's why we're having reports. Next, the value of data. I really cannot emphasize enough. Everybody here knows, and Jess and I know it so well. This reports feature item that we have is massive. There is so much that you can do with it. And when you really see what it looks like and how you can use it, you will also understand the immense value that it brings to your program, to your teachers, to your students, to your whole district. So that's the value and power of data. Finally, it's really the final piece of the extempore puzzle, right? We first started with assessments, we had practices, then we have scoring and feedback of those practices very much on the teacher level. Last August or so, we finally completed our reports overhaul, rubrics overhaul, where we redesigned our rubrics to help them be a lot more accurate on measuring assessments. And this is sort of that final puzzle piece, right? The reports from the assessment, from the practice to assessment to feedback to rubric. Now we can put it all together and have that end piece of the report that says, hey, you did your classes, you did your practice, you did your assessments. What does it all look like at the end of the day? So this is why reports. We want to open the floor. You're welcome to in the chat, or you can unmute yourself as well. How do you currently track academic progress in your language department. We'd love to hear from you. We want to hear from you to see what everybody's experience is currently like right now. So feel free to add something in the chat, or again, like I said, you can unmute and share as well. Don't be shy. Who do we have here?
One way, and this is not the primary way, but one thing that we do is every year, all of the level 2 students, regardless of which language they're studying, take it was formerly, they all did the Apple test, but now we've switched over to Stamp. So that's one way that we're able to track. Additionally, we of course have rubrics based on proficiency that we'll implement daily for formative as well as summative tasks.
Good.
Awesome. Lots of responses. Thank you, Callie, for sharing. Yeah, following Apple scores. Beth says following Apple scores in AP test results. Karen says using Illuminate, but we had to enter scores. Oh man, enter scores into it as well as into our grading program. Oh yeah, I know the struggle of having to enter grades into more than one platform. It's why am I doing this? Any others? Don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, well, with that question out of the way, let's look at one other question. Get you thinking a little bit. What's one thing in particular, one element of data, whatever you want to call it, what's one thing that you would like to know about your program data right now? And that can be at any level, district level, student level, teacher level. What's one thing that you want to know? Again, you can unmute, you can respond in the chat. Totally up to you. Oh, here we are. Beth, I want to know how often my department is using Extempore and for what. Jess, can we answer that today?
Yes, absolutely. We can, Beth.
Are we on track with proficiency levels?
Good one.
Think we can answer that too.
Mhm.
Any others? I mean, come on, you're here to learn. What do you want to learn? Karen says, which learners are progressing beyond, which learners are progressing slowly so that I can plan to reach them from the teacher's perspective. Jess, are we going to talk about interventions today?
Yes, we can absolutely talk about that.
I think so. Callie says, what percent of students are submitting, especially on time? Another thing to consider today.
Excellent.
Okay, awesome. Jess, would you like to introduce our very own Extempore ISD?
Sure. All right, everybody, welcome to Extempore ISD. Grant and I have been hard at work trying to build our own district of data to share with you. And I would like to introduce you to Coordinator Kara. She's got her fingers on the pulse of the program. She knows what she's doing. You can see she's got a magnifying glass. She's ready to dive into the data today. She wants to take a closer look and see, what's going on across the campuses, the whole district, teachers, how the students are performing. She's ready for it all. So, there are a few things that she's interested in viewing in particular. First, Kara, next slide, please, Grant. First, Kara wants to check in on her new hires. She's got 2 new hire teachers this year, and coincidentally, they're both teaching Spanish too, Julia and Sarita. She's done walkthrough. She knows that they're using Extempore a lot, but she wants to really see how her students are doing, especially on their common assessments. So we'll take a look at those 2 ladies. Next, Kara also wants to take a look at Spanish 1 overall. That's the course that most students are enrolled in currently in Extempore ISD. So she wants to just kind of see how things are going district-wide. And then finally, Extempore ISD is offering a lot of options for both intervention, and enrichment for world languages students. Imagine, right? It's a utopia district. There's so many opportunities. So Kara is very interested in using this data to identify different groups of students based on the last common assessments that she could perhaps invite to participate in some of those opportunities. So we'll look at each of these little scenarios within Extempore Report feature.
All right. Jess, shall we get into our first story?
This is the big reveal. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll notice administrators or teachers that have administrator positions, you'll notice there's a new tab at the top of your Extempore platform. So in the reports tab, we're going to walk you through these stories so you can get a better idea of what you will be able to see with your own district. So again, let's go back to Sarita and Julia. These are two new hires hired at the beginning of the school year. They both teach Spanish 2. Julia's an experienced teacher from another district, but she's really struggling to make the transition from that district to Extempore ISD, mainly because her old district, they followed the textbook and that was it. And that's really not how things are done in Extempore ISD. They're really creating their own types of lessons. So it's been a difficult transition for Julia. Now, Sarita is a little different. She graduated from Extempore ISD as a student, and she just graduated college. What's interesting about her is that, well, first, she's very young, right? This is her first year teaching. She's brand new. But she actually attended the school she teaches at, and she was a student teacher there last year. So she's Extempore ISD through and through. So let's take a look at how they are doing together. So first, using the filters at the top, we're going to go to our teacher report. And we're going to select the date range. We're going to look just at the first semester. So the easiest way to do that is just click like last year at the top.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks,
Yeah,
Jess.
you can just do last year, which is nice now that we're in 2024.
Where is last year? Oh, last year. There we
There
go.
we go. Okay. And then after I have that, I'm going to filter for teachers and I'm only going to select Julia and Sarita because those are my only new hires. Everyone else is rocking and rolling. I already know kind of what to expect from them.
Okay. Patience, Jess. Well, our platform votes. There we go. Okay. And then
Okay.
Keep going.
So our first view, what we're going to see under performance by instructor and campus, we're going to really look at averages. And this is taking into account absolutely everything that they've done in Extempore. Now, we have the option to change that, which we will do in just a second, but let's look here first. So I can see my instructors, their campuses, the average assessment score, and this, again, includes everything they've done during this time period in the platform. Something that they've made themselves, something that's been provided to them, it's all there. You can see total number of submissions and then not submitted. So that's so far, so good. If you'll scroll down just a bit, Grant.
Hold on. Sorry. There we go.
I can see now a little bit more detail and I can see it's broken down into class. So Sarita Sosa teaches 2 class periods, 3rd and 7th period, and I can see the averages for both of those across everything that they've done in Extempore. I can also see Julia Jimenez down here. Her scores are a little bit lower. So this is good, but I want to kind of drill down a little bit more. At the top, if Grant will go back up, I want to take out everything except for the common assessments. So in Extempore ISD, we do a speaking and a writing after each unit, and that's common. The expectation for teachers is to complete those, right? Summative assessments to have a little bit smaller data set to look at. So you can see here again, well, it's not great. right? It's not great for Julia Jimenez. She's got a 65.94. And Sarita looks to be doing okay. She's almost at a 90 or an 82% average. Okay. So they're substantially lower, right? What I can see is also, but they are both doing the assessment. Okay. So we're going to navigate to a different tab called Educator and Class Insights and get a better look at this. Instead of just their averages, I want to see it by assessment. So now I can see how Sarita and Julia are doing on these specific assessments. So I have level or unit 1 writing, unit 2 writing, unit 1 speaking, and unit 2 speaking. And the picture is becoming more clear, right? As we click, Julia's on the struggle bus. Sarita seems okay though. Okay. Again, we're just looking at those speaking and writing. Those are the common assessments. So let's add some more teachers to the mix. So I'm going to go back to my drop down and I'm going to select Carlos and Diego. They're my superstars in Spanish 2. Let's see how they're doing compared with the newbies. All right. So there we go. So again, I can see the instructors, the class periods that they teach, and then their scores for each class on those common assessments. So good news, the teachers at Laytonville are knocking it out of the park. That's not unusual. Carlos and Diego are the most high-performing teachers that teach Spanish 2 this year, and they're leaders, right, on their campus throughout world languages. So that's to be expected. But what we've seen here is that Julia really does need some support. So no doubt, Coordinator Kara, she's on the case. She has got some options to provide that support that she needs. Whether that be, sending her over to a different camp to Laytonville to do a classroom observation. Maybe we can get her in PLC with Diego, Carlos, and then buddy her up with Sarita as well. So easy to kind of check on your new hires and see if there's anyone that, draws your attention maybe than others. So scenario 1, our newbies, 1 is successful, 1 maybe needs a little bit more attention.
Great. Jess, anything else to add there? Any questions? I don't mind pausing real quick. Any questions or comments about what we've seen so far? If not, that's totally okay. I'm going to move on to story 2. Karen, yes, the shading. Yes, indeed. It is very eye appealing. With the part of Extempore Reports that makes it really nice is all of the visuals that we have to really, interpret data. It seems a bit, obvious and easy, but hey, it's really important and it makes a difference at the end of the day when we're doing this. Okay, we're going to get into story number 2, which is also quite interesting. I'm going to stay on this educator and class insight page so that we can learn more about the Spanish 1 program. First thing I'm going to do is so that we can see everything a bit better is I'm going to reset these filters by clicking the reset filter button. And from here, we'll see, whoa, this is a lot of assessments, but again, it's divided by language and by level. So we need to filter down to get a better view of this. So in order to just see Spanish 1, I'm going to go to classes and I'm just going to type in this SP1 and now I can check this again and that will populate all of the Spanish 1 assessments. Yeah, classes and assessments, but there's a lot going on here. So the next thing I want to do is take away common. I only want to show common assessments and I only want to show assessments from the first and second quarters. So I filter, I say no, not common assessments, and I'm going to say Spanish 1, and then I'm going to just do just the second quarter, just the second quarter. Sorry, doing this at the same time can be a bit tricky, so bear with me for a second. Oh my gosh, I just want 1.2. There we go, that's all I wanted. Okay. So I have 1.2. Once they're all highlighted, they will then all appear. And we'll see we have 7 different teachers who teach Spanish 1, and they all more or less did their common assessments for quarter 2. We have Veronica, Ursula, Kelly, Drew, Brian, Andre, and Ali. Now, the person I want to focus on here is Kelly Pasternak. And the thing about Kelly is that this is Kelly. She's been teaching now for 10 years, I believe. This is her first year teaching Spanish 1. And what you'll notice, once the scores load, is that Kelly's scores are a bit different from the rest of her peers within Extempore Reports. And that's going to cause some concern for Coordinator Kara. Hey, there we go. What do you see here? You see that Kelly on Spanish 1.2 writing, common assessment, practice 2, practice 1, and the speaking assessment, 97s across the board, 97s and a 91 on the writing assessment. Those are some high scores, my friend. And there are a couple explanations for why her scores might be so high. Number one, well, Kelly is just an absolutely fantastic teacher, and her students are really, really good at Spanish 1. And in this case, Kelly's colleagues have something to learn from a first-year Spanish 1 teacher. Number two, unlikely but also possible, is that Kelly's students have some information about what's on these assessments beforehand. Maybe not something we want to admit or acknowledge, but it's possible, right? Something for us to take into account. Lastly, the idea that I had in mind is that Kelly, because this is her first year teaching Spanish 1, she's not too familiar with how to use the lower level scoring rubrics. And because she wants her students to like her, she's been skewing their responses a bit higher. But the other thing that you'll notice is not only are Kelly's scores pretty high across the board, but there's something also up with the Spanish 1.2 writing common assessment. Why are those scores so high? Now, the thing about Extempore Reports is that we don't have the reason for why these scores are the way they are, but what it does is it allows you to see, whoa, something's up, right? It allows you to know, okay, why are Kelly's scores so high? Oh, why are the scores for Spanish for the writing common assessment so high? And that could be assessment validity. It could be some serious overachievers in Spanish 1. We don't know what that answer is. We cannot, correlation is not causation, as we know. But it allows the coordinator to dive deeper into this, right? And so the upshot, like I said, is that there's something going on in Kelly's classes and with this writing common assessment. And we get the information that would say, hey, maybe we need to look at the validity, the assessment validity of the writing common assessment. And maybe we need to take a look into Kelly's classes and say, hey, what's going on? Why are her scores so high? Maybe that's a conversation. Maybe that's an observation. Maybe it's looking at the rubrics. It could be a variety of different things. But like I mentioned, the reports give you that information to know, all right, something's going on there, right? And we can't do that. We cannot do that without clear, high quality data presented in a way that's very digestible for us. We have one more story to get into. Any questions on this view before we move on? Any questions, comments, whatever it might be?
Grant, I love that you pointed out the idea of using this data as like a way to look at curriculum validity. Anybody that has written curriculum for a district, adopted new assessments or what have you, I always felt like the assessment data that I was viewing was more of kind of a review and an indictment on the curriculum and not the instruction. So I really like that, looking to see, it's unit 2 and these novice speakers are just nailing it. Perhaps it's worth going back to make some changes, right? We don't want that kind of average that early in the year, at least. So
we would love averages to be that high, but from a realistic educator's perspective, we see that. Is that really, you have 100 some students and they're averaging 97 on this? That's a bit, it stands out to us a bit too much, right?
Yeah, I mean, Extempore is a dreamland, but maybe not quite that dreamy. I attest like that. So,
but I mean, it goes both ways too, right? Those numbers could be in the 60s. It's the exact same thing. It's just a matter of what do you notice that data tells you. Kelly's scores could be 60, 65, 65, 65. Why are they so low? And then likewise, any common assessment, in this case, the writing common assessment, it could be 60, 62, 63. It gives you cause for concern, right? That's what we want to emphasize here.
Yeah. And I think it helps so much being able to see, like, to compare, I would say, like, apples to apples, right? How's it happening on this campus? How is it happening between these teachers and the district as a whole? That's so helpful, instead of just, looking through like a teacher's grade book and extempore. You're really not getting much of a perspective at all. So when you have those common assessments in place, it's really easy to be able to get that view, to take some comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Beth. It really is a solid starting point for talking to your administration about a lot of different things, as you can see: teacher quality, rubric quality, assessment quality, whole bunch of different things. Dora, you want to add something?
Let me on mute. Already,
You're
I have
not-
to join. I have my students here right now. Remember, we are in Cali because of the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my God, I want to give them something. So they're doing, then I joined. That's why I could join. Anyway, hey, Kelly, I just want to ask this question. When the teacher is solo, just like myself, what is the plan? Because
plan?
I'm by myself. Are we going to look at across the levels? For example, I have different French one classes. Is that how it's going to be? Because I don't have another French teacher to do common assessment. Yeah.
Sure. But Dora, I don't know what the situation is like at your district. It could be at the district level you're comparing yourselves. It could be at the school level. It's hard to say. It's going to be very situation dependent.
Okay.
Right? But a lot of that is going to depend on the sort of commonality, if I may, of like rubrics and assessment nature, right, across your district. I think those are going to be most of the telling factors in this case. Thanks. Okay. Great comments, great questions. We have one more. Thank you, Dora. We have one more story to move on to. Again, I'm going to reset my filters. And then I'm going to move on down to this, if I may. The student report that we see down here. So we've talked about teachers so far. We talked about good teachers. We talked about teachers who are struggling, teachers who need help. Now we want to get into looking at the two different sides of things: the students who need help and the students who need perhaps enrichment. And what we'll see when we navigate down to this student report is that we have, a whole list of students. So if I scroll down here, I will continue seeing all of the students that I have. And you'll notice that there are 23,000 different students that I can scroll through. Now, not going to be the best use of your time if you wanted to see how all of your students did. So what we want to see, right, is we want to focus on Spanish 1, and we're only going to do Q3 assessments because we want to see where they're at in preparation for Q4. So I'm going to narrow this down again. Put that, say SP1, and then I'm going to highlight all of those. And now it will only show Spanish 1. And then, like I mentioned, we're only going to show, I'm going to do this right this time, SP 1.3. There we go. Highlight those. And while I'm doing this, you'll also notice, this is going to be in our little quick start guide, the importance of naming conventions when it comes to class names, assessment names, all of that. You see how easy this is for me to do. If your classes are not like this, it's going to be a lot harder to do. So just keep that in mind. So now you'll see I have filtered down, and while Extempore Reports loads, I have filtered by class. I have only Spanish 1, and now I'm only showing Spanish 1.3 assessments. My concern as coordinator care is concerned is to find which students did not pass the common assessments. So that's another one to filter down. Okay. We want to see which students did not pass the common assessment so that we can give them the remediation and tutoring that they might need for the upcoming Q4. Now you'll see I have all of these extra drop downs down up here. You can imagine what they do. If I click student, I can search for an individual student if I really wanted to. But I'm just going to focus on this pass fail drop down. And you'll see pass 102K, 1.2K, excuse me, fail 102. And then NA just means that the response has not been graded or it has not been submitted. So we don't know if they passed or failed, right? So I only want to see fails. I'm going to uncheck pass, uncheck NA. And within a second, it will populate and it will show every student. Boom. Our threshold was 65%. So anything less than 65% is marked as failing. And now I can see here within my reports, every single student that did not pass the common assessments. Now, how do I go about sharing that with our teachers? Well, I'm going to click these little 3 dots right here. I'm going to click export, and then I can export it as any type, CSV, Excel sheet, or Google Sheets. Give it a name, it exports, opens right away, and then you can share that doc or sheets with your teachers to say, hey teachers, send a quick email. These are the students who did not pass the common assessments. You can sort them by class. They go in and see, okay, these are the students that need remediation. These are the students that need to go to tutoring.
Yeah, I think, and Grant, sorry to jump in, but I feel
go
like
ahead.
you're not looking at a whole grade book, right? You're just taking a benchmark of whatever that assessment is and just kind of taking the temperature, right? But I know in my experience, they would say, hey, we're going to look at the scores from this assessment, and this is the threshold to invite to summer school. Right? If they're here, we're going to need to do some intervention during 4th quarter to make sure that they pass and graduate. That's a very real situation. Or, I kind of think that something like this, kind of the measuring, the dipstick, I've heard it called, would be really nice if, you have an upcoming PD happening and you're going to talk about, strategies for what do you do when students already know what you're teaching, right? And you can look and maybe plan some enrichment and some extension for those students that are really knocking it out of the park. And then how are we going to reteach the concepts, the specific structures that the students need to be successful and meet the standards for quarter 4 moving forward. So I feel like you could use this for a multitude of different occasions. Does anything come to mind as you see how this works? Maybe in the chat, if anything, a specific use might come to mind.
Yeah, and while you guys are thinking, thank you, Jess, for adding that. I just want to show the reverse is also helpful as well, right? I sort by pass, it sorts by the assessment score. Hey, maybe these are the students we should be asking to tutor or provide enrichment to. There's a slew of different sort of outcomes that you can do with these students once you see, hey, wow, this student's performing really well. This student is performing so. And again, this can be exported. You can share it right away. And you can, make whatever decisions you want to from there. Beth, a great tool for parent conferences, conversations, who to support during PLC. Spot on. Yes.
Right. Thank you for saying that. Grant and I had a long conversation yesterday about the 4 PLC questions. And I'm like, this report, if I had to make up another name for it, it would be question 3 and question 4, right? How are we going to help these kids, whether they're on the top or if they're the struggling group? Like, how are we going to help them? Because we need to make sure that the students that are passing and at the top, that we're providing some enrichment opportunities for them. They're just as important for the students that are struggling, as important as the students that are struggling and in need of remediation. So good. Yes, Beth, so glad you're here. I'm going to give you the little fire. The flame.
Well done, Beth, A+ student. Okay. Jess, shall we jump back to our
sure. Let's jump back. Or well, actually, you can stay there, Grant.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Sorry. Cliche absolutely intended, but wait, there's more. So you can see on the left-hand column, we've been kind of toggling back through a couple of these tabs, but you'll notice we've just barely scratched the surface with Extempore ISD. So I did not want to forget to mention that we have a whole section based on usage. And I'm not sure who it was in the chat earlier, how often they wanted to see how often teachers are using Extempore and how they're using it. Let's address that right now. So within usage, we have a couple of tabs to give you different types of information. The first tab is the usage overview. Really, this I think is a great way to see kind of at the 30,000-foot level, right? We're going to look at the questions that have been assigned. We're over 25,000 questions assigned in Extempore ISD. Very good. You can see the proportion of what's been submitted and what hasn't been submitted. Also, look at that. We're almost at 100. We're at 99.2 graded versus ungraded. I really love these graphs that show the student submissions by month. So you can see they're really kind of, they're pretty consistent, but something happened in May of 2024. I know that's the future, but we don't have anything there, which is kind of strange. Moving down, again, graded versus ungraded and Extempore ISD, we have 3 campuses. You can kind of see the changes there. Total users and so forth. So we go to the next tab. I don't like to pick favorites, but this one is my favorite. Usage trends is really nice. Those of you that have ever emailed me or someone else asking for a usage report, and I've been like making them for you. Well, now you have this access in the platform that you can access anytime. And what's great about it is you can see usage by week. I think it's spectacular. You can see how many questions have been assigned that week, how many have been submitted, how many instructors have been active, and then what's the recording time like, right? How is that varying week by week? You'll see some weeks we have null as the time recorded. That just means maybe they did a writing assessment and didn't do so much speaking that week. Now, there are some fancy things. You can click on specific weeks and it will pop up with what assessment was given that week and then what instructors were active. Usage trends. I love this page. Okay. We can also click on campus and instructor analytics, where you can take a deeper dive to see submissions by teacher, total recording time, and the number of questions assigned. Again, they're getting busy over at Extempore ISD. They're in Extempore all the time. But I think it's pretty nice when you can look, I don't know, I'm a sucker for the bar chart, to be able to see, again, we're at 99.2% graded. A little less on the submissions, but I love seeing that time recorded plotted out like that overall. And of course, if you use those date filters, you could isolate a specific part in time.
Yeah, I think if you don't mind, Jess, just to intervene real quick, the filters can really do so much for you here too, right? This is just the general overview, but like she said, you can use those filters to really narrow down precisely what you want to find. So keep going, Jess.
Okay, and then finally, I like this one too, is the engagement leaderboard. This is just going to show you the most active instructors and the least active instructors. Now, there's no judgment here, right? All of our instructors are awesome, but I look at this as a way of like, I'm going to identify those that are like extempore pros, and maybe they can help be my, maybe they present at a PD session. Maybe they help someone that's struggling. Maybe, they know something that I don't know as the administrator. People that I can lean on that are, really excelling or techie people. And then the least active, maybe I can check it. Maybe I should check in on them and say, hey, what's the deal? How can I help you? What do you need to be successful? So this will change. And again, there's different metrics, questions, submissions, and then graded submissions. So we're trying to give you the most insight that we can to how your teachers are using the platform and when and why, right? There is one more tab. Can we click on one? I'm calling it Audible. Grant, is it okay?
Yeah,
if we click
of course.
on performance summary, I think it is. Yep.
Yeah.
The one I want to see, the pie chart at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
I love this. Someone said, how are my teachers using it? Well, look at the question response types. You can really get an idea of the breakdown in your district by seeing, who's using this for writing, who's doing simulated conversation. Maybe we use synchronous groups more than anything else. So there's another one buried. there's just so much to tell you about, but I love the pie chart so much. So anyway, thanks, Grant.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you, Jess. So with all of this in mind, we've talked so much about our reports and you've seen so much and your mind is just spinning at the moment, right? And there's so much to consider. Let's ask another question for you all to consider and think about. Please share your thoughts. How would having these insights help you as an administrator? And I think we've gotten some answers for that so far, but really just having a bit of a more direct question now. How would having these insights help you? Whether it's usage, whether it's intervention and remediation and enrichment or teacher progress, how would this help you as an administrator? I think Priscilla, spot on. Yeah. Areas for support. Other ideas. Feel free to unmute. Oh, Karen. Thank you, Karen.
Oh, and Beth says the same.
Beth says the same.
On the same wavelength. Yes, I would say, to be honest, it can help get financial support to keep Extempore in the future. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
yeah. It's part of the administrator life. Any others? All right. Jess, shall we move on?
Yep. Sounds
All
good.
right. Did you want to add anything else about our usage dashboard that we haven't gone over?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Usage. We just pulled back the curtain a little bit there.
Yeah. It's fine. So with Extempore Reports, this is just to really emphasize what you're able to know from what we've already shown you today. One, proficiency, right? You can track your students' levels at all times. And as soon as your assessments are scored and submitted, you can see how they performed and then measure it, whether it's from campus to campus, school to school, instructor to instructor, class to class. You can compare and see that right away. Progress as well, right? So not just the individual scores across assessments, but also the growth across assessments over time, particularly common assessments, right? Just like I said, whether you're comparing campuses, comparing instructors, comparing language levels, comparing students, you can do that all within Extempore Reports. And then, as we just mentioned with our usage data, performance data on usage patterns on Extempore throughout your entire language program. If you couldn't tell already, there is so much that you can know with Extempore Reports. Where does that leave us then? Well, what's next? View your reports. You'll want to view them. You can get in touch with us today. Remember, only administrators have access to the reports within their account. Your average Extempore teacher is not going to have access to them, only administrators. And we'll also send you a follow-up email shortly, either tonight, likely tonight, with a link to this recording as well as the slide deck. We'll attach this quick start guide for administrators. I knew I had this for a reason. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now for everybody to see. You can save it. Again, we'll be sending this out tonight. And finally, talk to us, right? There's a lot to take in with Extempore Reports. Please reach out to us. Please talk to us. We are happy to get you started, see what you need to do, see what the next steps are for getting reports into your account and having all of this lovely, massive data at your fingertips so you can do what you would like to do with that data. And with that said, we will gladly take any questions that you may have at the moment. Thank you all so much for attending our presentation today, this webinar, and really hope you learned a lot. Jess, any final words or thoughts?
I would just say, don't hesitate to reach out to us. It's a lot. It's a big feature. We're super excited about it, if you couldn't tell. So if there's something that we can do to make your life easier, to help understand how this all works, please reach out to us. If you just need a shoulder buddy to walk you through it again, we're here for that. And Grant promised that more videos are to come. We're going to more videos on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
And all around. So if you are looking for more information about Extempore Reports, I'm sure they'll be coming at you very soon.
Or Extempore in general. But yes, like and subscribe. As always, this will be the next video on our YouTube channel, this webinar recording. But yeah, the one thing that I didn't elaborate a lot on was that quick start guide that I just shared. The key word here is quick, because there's a lot to do in the reports process, and a lot of the videos that I'm going to be making up are going to be breaking down that process so that you all can understand better. But that's for later. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Karen. Really appreciate your comments. You guys are wonderful. And like I said, we're happy to take any questions you might have. Thanks
Great
so much.
audience. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys were wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Ciao. Thank you.
Bye, Dad.
Thank you.
See ya.
Nicely done.
Oh, we done? Oh, it's everybody. I'm going to stop recording. Hold on.